Melbourne developer Costa Fox has embarked on the redevelopment of a 19th century convent at Rippleside in Geelong. The $100 million project aims to restore the Stella Maris Mansion on the 1.2 hectare waterfront site, while adding a further 4 three-storey buildings. To explain the vision for the project is Costa Fox Managing Director, Michael Fox. Thanks for joining us on The Urban Developer.
Thanks, Adam.
Now let's just start with this site. Talk us through the historical context of the property and why this was an attractive opportunity for Costa Fox.
A very attractive opportunity that presented itself quietly off market. I've had a bit of an affiliation with an area or part of Geelong called Rippleside for quite some time, going back to my days as Director of Property at Toll Holdings when we controlled the Port of Geelong. And Rippleside was an old ship repair yard, which Toll actually sold off, and that site now forms Balmoral Quay, which has been a very successful waterfront development. So when this opportunity presented itself next door, and given the heritage of the Costa Fox business, the opportunity was way too good to let go past. So yeah, we picked up what was it's now Stella Maris, but it was the former St Helens mansion, and it was probably one of the earliest waterfront mansions in Geelong. It was originally on 22 acres, further subdivided in the late 80s and early 90s, and sold off. But our plan now is to rejuvenate the whole site and create something that's pretty special for Geelong.
Now, the Costa name's fairly well known across Geelong. How important was it from a historical point of view to preserve the mansion?
During my time as a developer in Melbourne, we've done some pretty good heritage work, including sites like the former Tip Top site, and obviously we've got the old tea house in Melbourne. We set about looking at a plan to restore the mansion. We've tracked back through its history, looked at its renovations, its extensions, its add-ons. It was a school. It's been a convent. It was originally one of the home to the drunkards back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So our plan is to probably take all those additions and everything off, restore it to its natural heritage, and to also allow for a big renovation and an extension of it. So it'll come with a building envelope. The land size will be reduced to something like 2,000 to 2,500 square metres. It sits purely waterfront, and it has some amazing, beautiful old trees on the site.
Now, we understand you acquired the property, as you mentioned earlier this year, for just over $11 million from the Catholic charity MacKillop Family Services. How did you come to actually acquire the property in an off-market transaction?
Look, I think the Costa name was what was basically behind it. The MacKillop Family Services, as we understand it, were looking for probably more modern accommodation for the services that they run in Geelong. So we got wind of it. We approached them, and they were amenable to a transaction that, with people that had a pretty good reputation, good track record, and people that were associated with Geelong.
And now the development proposal, as you mentioned, contemplates retaining and restoring the convent at the same time as developing, I think it's about 50 premium apartments. What's the sort of the broader design vision? Take us through that.
Well, our broader vision was to not have massive visual bulk or anything like that on the site, but to sort of pay homage to the mansion. The mansion is still the forefront of the development, but we've snuck in 4 separate buildings surrounding the site, so it's not just one big development. There's 4 separate buildings. There's one building of 25 apartments, one of 14, one of 8, one of 3. The product varies from sort of entry level, smaller townhouses. We've got a 1-bedroom in there. We've got 2-bedroom apartments. We've got 2-bedroom townhouses, 2-bedroom and study townhouses. And then we've got on the waterfront some pretty amazing apartments that are, I think, Adam, you saw what we did up in Manly. So we've taken a bit of inspiration from there, and we've got these apartments that are up to 300 square metres, which Geelong hasn't seen before, and they are waterfront, designed by Rothy Lehman, and they are pretty spectacular, and they are a size of between 2, 3, and there are some 4-bedroom apartments.
Wow. And so how do you go about the planning process to sort of ultimately achieve this? How do you navigate through both the heritage and the broader planning challenges? What's the approach there?
Well, we've got Peter Lovell advising us on the heritage for the site. He's done all the reports and everything, so we're used to working with Peter. We've also spoken to the council's heritage advisor, and they seem to be quite happy with what we're doing. It's good to see that the mansion will actually be, finally restored. It's in, I wouldn't say complete state of disrepair, but it needs a lot of work. From a planning process, Geelong's pretty formidable at the moment. They're actually looking for infill development sites and sites like this to create greater urban renewal type projects. We think we've got a pretty good plan. If you look at 50 apartments on almost a 3-acre site, we're sort of down to almost one apartment per 2,000 square metres of land. So we think that we've completely undercooked what we could have actually put on there, and we think that the council will quite like what we're doing and our approach. We're also retaining all the significant trees on the site. There's a couple of beautiful Norfolk Island pines. There's some Moreton Bay figs, and there's some fantastic eucalypts that are there. So we brought on board Brett and his team from Acre Landscapes, and they've created something pretty special throughout the site.
Now, what actually becomes of the mansion? Is that to be converted into residential, or is that to be used for another use?
No, the mansion will be a mansion. It'll be a house. We haven't yet decided whether we will do the renovation and so forth ourselves, but we've created, a massive extension plan for it, and whether or not we do that or whether we allow a buyer to do it to their own taste, probably remains to be seen. But we're open to suggestions on that. We've allowed for a swimming pool, beautiful gardens, and so forth.
Incredible. Now, you've previously described the Geelong residential market as quote unquote hot. What's driving this, in your opinion, and how is the product that you're ultimately designed positioned to capture this demand?
I suppose I did say it was hot, but REA have put it in one of the top 10 municipalities for growth in Australia. Talking to my friend Peter Grant at RPM Real Estate, and I value their research. Granty tells me that Geelong sold in the last quarter to the June quarter, as 1,000 blocks of land sold in the greater Geelong area, their sort of biggest 3 months ever. Okay. So I think I'm not sure what's driving it, but I think more flexible work arrangements. There's more people looking for something that's it's a little bit of a cheaper area to buy in than Melbourne. If you look at the size of some of the apartments that we'll be offering down there, if you price those up in Melbourne, it'd almost be probably double the price. Our product is aimed at, there's quite a bit of product under $1 million. There's some around $1 million, and there's some that will be sort of that $3 to $4 million mark. But it also taps into the Western District. There's a few more corporates that have moved to Geelong. So look, the whole area just seems to be going nuts. So we thought we'd jump in and give it a bit of a tick along and offer some product that hasn't been seen before.
And so what's the timing? What's your delivery program in terms of sort of expected planning approvals, market launch, construction commencement, and then ultimately completion?
We're hoping to be through planning by the end of the year, into the marketing by sort of March, April next year, and into construction by the end of the year. By the end of next year, sorry. The interest has only been real. It hasn't had much of a run publicly at all. But we've already got something like 50 registrations on our website, so people are clearly interested in what we're doing down there. So we think that we'll have a pretty successful launch early next year, and hopefully start construction by the end of the year.
And then for the rest of the Costa Fox business, what have you got in the pipeline over the coming 12 months?
Well, as you know, Adam, we don't try and be all things to all people. We do pretty select things in select locations. I'm pretty fussy about, and my partner, Gino Hubey, pretty fussy about what we do. We're doing our second office building in Cremorne. We sold one off the plan for $50 million last year. So we had another site up our sleeve. So we're going to spec that. It'll be another 5,000 square metre office building. We've got a great site in Fisherman's Bend, if the government ever get the planning regime right down there. 350 apartments. It'll be hopefully the first tram stop across the Yarra River. We've got an unbelievable site in Ringwood that we haven't yet announced, but I can talk to you about that as perhaps another exclusive at some stage down the track. But we're sitting on an amazing site there. And of course, we've got the Tea House in South Bank, which is an amazing building, an amazing project, but it's complicated with planning, it's complicated with Heritage Victoria. But yeah, we've got something pretty special for Melbourne when it comes to that one as well. So we've got 5 or 6 really good projects going at the moment. That's enough for a small boutique team, and we're going pretty well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll definitely stay attuned to what you're doing, and we love the exclusives as well. So we'll tap into that when the time's right. Michael, thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the project, and as I said, we'll watch it closely.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your time. Good on you.